Hi guys, so this week we're going to be making some Zentangle ribbons, and this kind of combines a couple of different things that we've talked about before. One of them is value shading to add depth to our artwork. Another one is including patterns in our artwork. And then the last one is we're talking about scale in our artwork. And we've learned that scale is the relative size of one object to another in our artwork. So for example, if you're looking at the scale slide, the scale of the chick is much larger than the man in the artwork. And we can sometimes distort the scale of objects in our art for humor purposes or to make a point in our artwork. So this week, the scale of our ribbons is going to be much larger than the scale of our tiny Zentangle designs that we're going to fill into the background. And the contrast between something really large and something really small and detailed adds some great interest to our artwork. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is start off with a white piece of paper. Now I have cut my piece of paper down into a square. That's going to make it easier to measure out and get an equal number of ribbons going across, but you could always leave your paper long if you really want to. The second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little bit of a border for myself around the outside. I think things just looked kind of nice framed out like that sometimes. So how I'm going to do that, I'm kind of precise with my measurements in my artwork. So I'm going to give myself an inch border on all the sides. So I'm measuring in an inch and I'm just making a little mark with my pencil where I want that line to be. Then I'm going to go through with my ruler and create those lines. Now, if you do not have a ruler at home, you can always use the flat edge of a book or a notebook or something like that to create these straight lines. So I'm going to go all the way around my paper and create this border. If you want to outline this border with some sort of black marker when you're done making it with pencil, you can absolutely do that. I think I will go in and outline my border, but you don't have to if you don't want to, because we're going to be filling our ribbons and the spaces in between with color, so it will hold that border for us. All right, so now that my pencil lines are done, I'm gonna go around and I'm just going to outline this square in the middle with my marker. All right, and now that shows me exactly where my borders are. So the next step is drawing our ribbons. And you can do this a couple of different ways. I think the easiest way to do it is to draw all of my wavy lines one direction, turn my paper, draw all of my wavy lines the other direction, and then I'm gonna erase out the places where those lines cross over each other. So here we go. And these can be as wide or as thin as you want them to be. I kind of like to make mine about an inch wide per ribbon. And that allows me to fit about 3 ribbons going each direction. So obviously you don't want straight lines, but if you want to be precise about making your ribbons equal, you can measure those as well. So I'm going to just make I'm just making little marks on either side of my ruler, because your ruler is about an inch wide. How far apart I want those ribbons to be. Now I'm gonna start making some wavy lines. So these can be really deep waves, they can be really shallow waves, it's kind of up to you. And then your second line is going to want to follow that first line. So I'm not doing a different kind of wave, I'm starting out the same way I did that first line, and I'm following that first curve I made with my second curve. So that's gonna be my first ribbon right there. Here goes my second. And now your second ribbon doesn't have to curve the same way that your first one did. So for example, I'm gonna curve mine a little bit differently this time. But again, that second line that you're making that ribbon with needs to follow that first one. So although this ribbon might be a little different than this ribbon, these two lines follow along with each other. Now I'm gonna do my last one. I think I'm gonna go the opposite direction with my wave. All right, so this is gonna be a ribbon, this is gonna be a ribbon, and this is gonna be a ribbon. Now I'm gonna turn my paper and I'm gonna do the same thing going back this other direction. So I'm going to mark out 1 inch for myself. All right, so now I have this kind of crazy wavy grid. Again, this is going to be a ribbon, this is going to be a ribbon, and this is going to be a ribbon. If it helps you to mark those so that you know what to erase, I would suggest doing that. That really helps me as well, okay? So what I'm going to want to erase is every other place that these intersect with each other. So, for example, this ribbon's going to be on top right here. So I'm going to erase those 2 lines in the middle of that ribbon. Okay, so that one's on top. Then I want it to go underneath. So I'm not going to erase these 2 lines. I'm going to erase these 2 lines. So it looks like it's going underneath that ribbon for the second time. So just like when we weave with paper or yarn, it's under, over, under, over. So you're going to erase every other line going horizontal and then every other line going vertical. So now I went horizontal, then I erased my vertical lines. Now I'm going to erase my horizontal lines again. Okay, so now it looks like it's going under, over, under. Now I want to do the opposite with this one. So I erased out these lines here, my horizontal lines. I'm going to erase my vertical lines here. All right, so now I'm done. Now, if you want to make them look like they're alternating like this, like they're actually woven together, you can see that even Mrs. Turner went back at certain points and was like, oops, I made a mistake here. It was supposed to be the opposite. So take a look at your artwork and make sure that every other intersection, every other place where those 2 ribbons cross over each other is doing the opposite of the ones around it, right? So here I'm over, here I'm under, here I'm over. Here I'm over, here I'm under, here I'm over, right? If you just want to do, like, for example, all of the lines going this way over top, all of the lines going this way, you can do that, and that will probably be a little bit easier to decide what to erase, okay? So you can go back in and outline these ribbons with marker as well if you want to, or you can just go straight into shading. So hopefully we all remember how to value shade. Remember, you're going to pick a side that your light is coming from. So let's say our light is coming from this direction. And these are all going to be the lightest parts of your ribbon. Now, when an object overlaps another object, we know that that creates a shadow. So if my light is coming from this way, all of my shadows are going to be on the left side of my ribbons. So, for example, this ribbon is over this one. So I'm going to start my value shading over here to be the darkest. And then I'm going to get lighter as I go this way. But once I reach the ribbon that is overlapping this ribbon that I'm working on right now, I'm going to give it a little shadow underneath so it looks like it's actually overlapping that ribbon. So here we go with shading. Alright guys, sorry my video cut me off. I was saying that there are 2 things that are going to help your ribbons look really realistic. One of them is not just using dark, medium, and light tones, but really trying to include as many different values as you can in each section. I really took my time building up each layer and making this the darkest it could possibly be, and this side the lightest it could possibly be, with all the different tones in between. The second tip I have for you is when you go to do your shadow on the side of the ribbon that is overlapping this one, remember that shadows are not straight, hard lines. They have soft edges. So once you put down a little line of a dark value, go back with your pencil and make these tiny little circles along the edge to kind of help blend in that shadow with the rest of your ribbon, okay? Then the very last step is you're going to get a colored marker, a colored pencil, a crayon, something colorful. And you're going to go into all of these spaces in between each ribbon, and you're going to start making Zentangles. Now, Zentangles you may have done before, you may have not. They're essentially just pattern making, but we're doing it in a really thoughtful, mindful way. So pattern making is good for our brains because it kind of allows our brain to take a rest while we're doing something repetitive. So remember, a pattern is anything that repeats itself. So you could do something really simple like stripes or polka dots. You could do a really complicated pattern. You can use every color in the rainbow. You could just use one color in all of these spaces. So we want to see all of these spaces filled with some sort of Zentangle pattern. And I would suggest that you give your best effort to make each space have a different pattern inside. That just helps our artwork look visually interesting and kind of different. So we hope you guys have a lot of fun making Zentangle ribbons this week. We can't wait to see what you've made. If you try out this project this week, please share with us. We love seeing your artwork, and we hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye, guys.